Since our sense of self is shaped by social interaction, we should now turn our attention to the socializing forces that have the most significant impact on our lives. These forces, called agents of socialization, provide structured situations in which socialization takes place. While there is a variety of such influences in American society, like religion or political and economic systems, we're going to focus here on what may be the four most predominant agents of socialization: the family, schools, peers, and the media. The family is the single most significant agent of socialization in all societies, and it's pretty easy to see why. The family is the original group to which we belong. It's where early emotional and social bonds are created, where language is learned, and where we first begin to internalize the norms and values of our society. Most of our primary socialization, which teaches us to become mature, responsible members of society, takes place within the family. It's not surprising then that the family has perhaps the longest lasting influence on the individual as well. The family has such a powerful impact on us partly because as young children, we have limited outside contact until we start daycare or school, and therefore few, if any, other influences. The family is our world. But the family is also in the world, where a family is located, both geographically and socially. Its ethnic, class, religious, educational, and political backgrounds will affect family members as well. Socialization differs from family to family because each family has its own particular set of values and beliefs. A single family can change over time. As years pass, children may not be raised in the same way as their older siblings were, for the simple reason that the parents have no experience with babies when their first child is born, but plenty of experience by the time the youngest comes along. Nor are all aspects of socialization deliberate. Some, in fact, are quite unintentional, like when a father's violent temper or a mother's grumpiness is passed down to the next generation. Many people remember their school years with fondness, dread, or perhaps even relief that they're done. No wonder school makes such a great subject for bad dreams and movie scripts. Public elementary and secondary schools were first established in the United States in the 1800s. While attendance was uneven at first, education advocates believed that schooling played a critical role in maintaining a democracy and in shaping future generations of citizens. Over the years, schools have gradually taken on greater responsibilities than merely teaching a prescribed curriculum. Schools now provide physical education, meals, discipline, and childcare, all things that used to be a part of other social institutions. When children began attending school, and this includes preschool and daycare, it may be their first significant experience away from the home. Schools help them become less dependent on the family, providing a bridge to other social groups. In school, children learn that they will be judged on their behavior and on their academic performance. They learn not only formal subjects, but also a hidden curriculum, which is a set of behavioral traits like punctuality, neatness, discipline, hard work, competition, and obedience. The socialization children receive from teachers, staff members, and other students occurs simultaneously and overlaps with what they learn in the family. Recently, there's been increasing scrutiny regarding the role of teachers, especially in public schools. Because teachers are such potent role models for students, parents are concerned about the moral standing of those who are in charge of teaching their children, as well as their training and competence. There's increasing pressure for schools to take on even more responsibilities, including dealing with issues that used to be taught at home or in church, like sex, violence, drugs and alcohol, and general morality and citizenship. Peer groups are a group of people who are about the same age and have similar social characteristics. Peers may be friends at school or from your neighborhood, or members of a sports team, or even cabin mates that you meet at a summer camp. As children get older, peers often become more important than parents as agents of socialization. As the influence of peers increase, the influence of parents decrease. While the family still has the most long-lasting influence on an individual, it's peers who have the most intense and immediate effect on each other. By adolescence, young people spend more time with their peers than with their parents or anyone else. Membership in a peer group provides young people with a way of exercising independence from and possibly reacting against adult control. Young people tend to form peer subcultures that are almost entirely centered on their own interests, like gaming or frisbee golf or garage bands, with distinct values and norms that are related to those interests. The need to fit in with a peer group may seem overwhelming to some young people. Some will do almost anything to belong, even betray their own values. In a recent study, Bradley and Wildman found that peer pressure was a predictor of adolescent participation in risky behaviors such as dangerous driving and drug and alcohol use. Peer pressure can also produce beneficial outcomes, such as increased engagement with academic work and a positive sense of identity. Peer groups, while providing important and enjoyable social bonds, can also be the source of painful self-doubt, ridicule, or rejection. The media's role as one of the most significant sources of socialization is a somewhat recent phenomenon. Television began infiltrating American homes in the 1950s, and internet usage has become widespread only in the past 2 decades. Yet, for many of us, it would be almost impossible to imagine life without the media, whether it's print, broadcast, or digital. This huge explosion, the dawning of the information age, is something we already take for granted, but we don't always see the ways in which it's changing our lives. Many sociologists question whether the media may have even taken some of the functions of the family in teaching basic norms and values and giving advice on common problems. As an example, take the people of Fiji, a South Pacific island that lacked widespread access to television until 1995. A group of Harvard Medical School researchers took this unique opportunity to study the effects of television on the local population. Specifically, they were interested in the ways in which Western programs influenced eating habits and body image amongst adolescent girls in a culture that traditionally supported robust appetites and body shapes. Through surveys and interviews with young women, whose average age was 17, in 1995, just months after television was introduced, and then surveyed again in 1998, the researchers determined that Western television was in fact affecting body image and corresponding behaviors among the Fijian girls. In those 3 years, the percentage of subjects whose survey responses indicated an eating disorder jumped from 12% to 29%, and the percentage who reported self-induced vomiting as a form of weight control rose from 0% to 11%. Dieting and dissatisfaction with weight were prevalent, and 83% of the girls who were interviewed reported that they felt television had specifically influenced their friends and or themselves to feel differently about change their body shape or weight. The women of Fiji only recently encountered TV and other forms of modern media. How do we measure the cumulative effect of this exposure to the media that pervades American society day in and day out? Whose messages are we listening to, and what are we being told about ourselves and each other? On average, Americans watch about 3 hours of television per day and spend more hours listening to music, reading, watching movies, playing video games, surfing the web, or using social media. By the time young people graduate from high school, they will have spent far more time with media than in the classroom. And while some worry that this means kids are lost in a fantasy world, a study done by Hodge and Tripp determined that watching TV does sometimes actually help kids learn to distinguish between reality and fantasy, which is an important developmental milestone. In addition for their ability to entertain, the media also has great potential to inform and educate. It is clear that we internalize many of the values, beliefs, and norms presented in the media, and that their powerful influence in our lives only stands to increase as we proceed deeper into the information age.